Hey guys, if you're watching this video, you either already bought my professional to-do list or you're ready to elevate your task tracking further. In any way, I will show you in this detailed walkthrough how the to-do list works. I will explain the differences between Excel and Google Sheets, how you can further customize the template, and simply how to use it. So let's get started. In general, in terms of my setup, I will show you how the list works in Google Sheets. I personally prefer Google Sheets, and I will later also explain quickly why. Anyways, I also got my Excel version here. Please note I'm using Excel for Mac, so there might be slight differences between Excel on a Mac and on a Windows PC. Before we enter the task, let me show you what tabs you have. You got the instruction tab. Please make sure to read the instruction, go through it. All the questions you might have should be answered here. Anyways, I will also cover that in the video. So you have the detailed instruction for every tab in here. You have your setup tab where you write down the responsible person. These are the persons you can select in the to-do list to distribute the tasks. You got the to-do list itself, the Kanban board, which is obviously empty now, so we will have a look later how it looks. You have a monthly calendar and a weekly calendar view. So let's get started with the to-do list and enter our first task. And before we add the first task, we define the responsible persons first. So we go to setup and we say Emma, Peter, Adam, and Karen. Now we can enter the first task. So let's say prepare weekly report. We select a prioritization. It's either low, mid, or high. So let's say mid. We got a status here. It's either open, in progress, on hold, cancelled, review, or done. So since we are just starting the task, I would say open. Now you see these nice little icons here. You have an icon for every status to simply visualize what the status means. So you can see in progress has this icon. We got the circle for on hold, cross for cancelled, review, and done. Let's go back to open. We define a deadline. So let's say end of March. We can see here in days left now the days until the deadline is reached. So 11 days. Responsible person, we select Emma. If you like, you can select a comment. This is the first task. Let me fill the list with more tasks and then I will explain further how you can use the dashboard and what everything means. So now we got more tasks. Let me define different priors, the open status for all tasks, and deadlines. I will also select one deadline, which is already passed, to demonstrate the overdue task feature. Having done that, you can see already some changes in the dashboard. We got urgency here, which basically means if a task is critical or not, or overdue. As we can see here, we got one overdue task, but we got non-critical. And how do tasks turn critical? By select critical days. So this basically means within a certain range of days, a task turns critical. So let's say 10 days. That basically means that all tasks that only have less than 10 days left are turning critical. So you always know, okay, the last 10 days are reached, so we really need to get this task done. If you change it to, let's say 20, you will see that even more tasks are selected, or if it's just 5, we only have 3 critical left. So in this example, I will keep the 5. What else you can see is the priority. So all the priors you got in here can be shown here. So you have 5 high, 4 mid, and 2 low. Also, you got the info section that firstly shows you the today's date. Today is the 20th of March 25. You have the most distant deadline, which simply means that this is the deadline the most far in the future. So basically this one here. And you got the overview and status tracking. Since all the tasks are on open, You can see 10 open. And now let's start changing the status. For example, they are now all in progress. We got some on hold or cancelled, in review phase, or luckily some of them are done. How it changes the dashboard is like that. You have the overview now with all the done task, review task, and progressing task. And you can see the achievement over here. By the way, if you wonder why done, review, and progressing does not sum up to 10, but only 9 in this case, this is because the cancelled one that you got here is not included here. And overall, you have an achievement of 43% of task done versus open. So that means you have two overviews, one that shows you the main progress, so done, review, or progressing, and the one that are progressing can be seen here in the detailed status overview. Having done that, we can navigate to the Kanban board, which now looks like this. You got different stati, open, progress, on hold, cancelled, review, done. You have the total amount of task here. You can select team member or delete it to see all. And in here you have task itself, assigned to, the due date, days left, and the priority. The priority is visualized in different colors to make it more easy to follow. One tidy nice feature that you got is the shortened task feature. That basically means if you got longer task names like here that are exceeding the field, you can click on that and you will shorten them so that it looks nice and tidy. I think this is it about the Kanban board. Now we go to the monthly view. For that, if we got an older default setting, we select the actual month that we got. So March 25, and you can see all the open tasks for March, and if we go further in the future for April and so on. For more tidy overview, you can hide the task description like this. Or to make it more easy, you can right click and say expand all groups to expand, or to collapse all to collapse. Of course, you can change the size of the calendar based on your needs. So if you want to have it wider, you can do that. This is up to you. Now we can go to the weekly view. We do the same here. We go to March 25. First thing I can show you is another really nice feature. This short calendar over here. You can see in gray the days passed per month. So you know the first not gray field over here is the 20th. So this is the current date. If we switch to past month, for example, you can see all the past dates are gray. So you always exactly know where in the month you are, and you got the quick overview here and the sum of tasks. And a similar mechanism like the dashboard of the to-do list, you can see in here, which is the achievement bar. So the more tasks are done, the more achievement you have, and you can see your tasks distributed in different weeks. Of course, you can make these bigger as well, depending on your needs. This is up to you. So this is how all the features look like. If you go back to to-do list, you can actually use the check function now and click on the checkbox for every done task, and it will be nicely visualized and highlighted, so you always have a really good and tidy overview. Of course, you can just simply change the status to done, since the dashboard is only tracking the status and not the checkbox. This is just an additional feature for you to visualize it nicer, as I said. So this is basically how the to-do list works. And now I will show you how you can customize them further. Let's say you want to delete tasks like the done task here. You could simply click right and say delete row, or what I prefer, since in the end you're shortening your to-do list, you can simply delete the data. This is up to you how you want to do it. Which brings me to how you add task. In general, I would say you have quite some tasks to fill, but of course there could be always the need to add more. Go to the end of your template, copy the last row, paste it in here, and you could do that theoretically for as many tasks as you like. important is just that you always highlight the entire row, since if you click here, you can see formulas in the background that are hidden. So it's always important by selecting the whole row to also copy the formula in the background. This is how you add tasks. If you want to extend the to-do list, of course you can also add columns. Just be careful that you don't mess with calculations or with certain grouped fields. So make sure that you add only columns where it seems to be possible. So let's say in front of the comment column, you insert one column here. You can name it however you like. So of course you extend the dashboard by adding columns, but you can certainly do that. If let's say you add a column here, then this looks a bit messy. Simply remove the color code here, and then you also have a nice overview again. So this is how you add columns. Certainly if you don't like the blue color code, you can change the color. Let's say in the header, simply highlight it. Select a color of your choice. You can do the same here. For the bars though, it's a bit more complicated since these are based on formulas. So I would recommend, if you're not familiar with these formulas, leave it like that. You can always easily change the color of fields that don't have formulas in the background, like these. And you immediately have another look and feel of your to-do list. What if you need another prioritization or another status? Theoretically, you could change the prioritization. How you change the drop-down menu in Google Sheets is quite simple. You simply click on the Edit button in here. Let's say we add ASAP for as soon as possible. Choose Done. Apply to all to always update all drop-downs in your list. This is quite important. Otherwise, it's just adjusted for one single drop-down for one row. Apply to all, and we see you got the ASAP here. One important thing to note is the priority section here is only referring to exactly these priorities, high, mid, low. So if you change these to the ones that you need, or you extend some, please note that this priority overview is not working as it's supposed to work. In the end, no big deal if you don't need the tracking here and you prefer to have customized prioritization. Otherwise, be careful with that. The same goes for the status. The status is the foundation for the Kanban board. Theoretically, you could change the status, but this means you would need to change the formulas within the Kanban board. And this is only recommended to people who know how to replace text within a range of formulas. So I recommend not to change the status. And another question that I hear often is how you can sort the tasks, since they are quite wildly mixed and it could be nice to sort them by deadline. Practically, you can do that by simply selecting the row and adding a filter. You can now sort by deadline, for example. Just note that for rows that are merged like this, you will see in the header different filter options. So in this case, if you want to filter by task, you need to do that here in the first filter. But this is theoretically possible, or if you just want to filter by one name. Voila. And finally, let me show you the differences between Google Sheet and Excel. First of all, let me fill the Excel template with the same data that we got. I added the example data, and you can see that it looks pretty much the same as we could see in Google Sheets. The Kanban board, calendar views. One difference here is small but important. You don't have the calendar feature that you have in Google Sheets. So to show you again how the feature looks like in Google Sheets, you simply click in the cell and you can select a date. I know that this feature seems to exist if you use Excel in an online environment. Anyways, at least in my Excel version dated 2025, this is not existing. So you need to add your date manually. To do that, you use the American format. You can also see that in the instruction here. For demonstration purposes, I simply pasted the date for all tasks. And one difference is that you cannot simply copy paste the checkboxes in Excel. As we could see in Google Sheets, you can simply select the row and copy paste it. This is not possible here and slightly more complicated. This is why I added a range of tasks already for you, 2000 tasks, without checkboxes though, but the mechanism that you got here with the checkbox, you will have in here if you select status done. So this is at least the same. And some reasons why I personally prefer Google Sheet is, for me, if I compared, the look and feel is a bit nicer to me. At least when you compare it to Excel and Mac. So I think this looks a bit more modern. For me personally, it's also more easy to use. If you see the drop downs can be visualized much nicer. Here the drop downs are a bit smaller. They look a bit outdated. Again, this could also be since Excel for Mac is different to Excel on Windows, but I think Google definitely has some bonuses here. For example, here the drop down is quite tiny, but ultimately it's the same functionality, and this is all what counts. So you can use whatever is best for you. There's no difference. Another difference to Google Sheet is actually the filtering option. So it's unfortunately a bit painful that in Excel it's not as easy possible as in Google Sheets. If you do the same logic here and use the filter, you can see that different to Google Sheets, where you have a filter option for every column, you don't have that in Excel. So merged cells like these only have one filter, which means if we try to sort the task now, let's say descending, it says it's not possible because of the merged cells. The only way to solve that would be actually to unmerge all the cells. So you could click through the header, look where cells are merged, like here, J and K, click on unmerged cells. The same for the comment. But in addition to that, you really need to make sure to unmerge all the cells in here. Unmerge really all cells for all the fields that were merged together. For example, the task, the deadline, and so on. So to be honest, this is in Excel really painful, really manual, and a really big plus in Google Sheets, since it's so simple and easy here. You can just remove the filter, and even though you got merged cells, it's still possible to filter. And that's it already. So I hope this walkthrough could answer all your questions and could give you a really good overview of how to use the professional task tracker. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more productivity tutorials, walkthrough, tips and tricks, and many more things. Take care and ciao ciao.